Today we are going to begin with the model 4. This is the part 1. So you can see the total allocated syllabus as per VTU will be uh, split into two parts. WDM concepts and its components, supporting components, and it is going to wind up with optical amplifiers. WDM is nothing but uh, wavelength division multiplexing, similar to FDM and TDM what you have seen. TDM means time division. You are going to share the time there with respect to all the channels that you are going to multiplex. So whereas in case of this one FDM, there you are going to share the frequency. Okay, frequency range of frequency will be shared between the different channels. Coming to WDM, there we are going to share the wavelength. There we are going to see the operating principles, standards, some multiplexers, some active and passive components we are going to see there. Then in optical amplifier, that is the part 2, we are going to look into some application aspects along with amplifiers. So the first point today what we are going to discuss is how we are going to elaborate this WDM concept. So WDM concept means how we are able to define it correctly and how we are going to explain it with some notable points. So the range of electromagnetic spectrum over which this WDM is going to operate is consisting of O bands to L bands, and some S, C, and L bands are going to come later. So it has a wide spectrum over which we can operate the optical signals to be transmitted efficiently or to be received, whatever, with the available bandwidths. So these are the technologies what we are mentioning here: 1260 nanometer and 1675 nanometer. These are technologies. Sorry, not technologies. These are the range of wavelengths, okay, over which we are going to operate this WDM technology. The second aspect, what we can see, the high capacity of the optical fiber communication. Light sources emit light in the narrow band. So now we can see what are the a few reasons which have contributed for the evolution of this WDM. Till that the WDM was invented, uh, we had with us only TDM and FDM. With the invention of highly coherent light sources, these things, okay, which are able to generate the light or optical ray or the photons with the uh, bandwidth is wavelength width you can see which is very much less than even 1 nanometer. Okay, so this had allowed many independent wavelength channels. Means now with the development of such highly coherent light source generators, which are able to generate the spectral emission width having even less than 1 nanometer. Now we'll started using such light sources as independent channels itself, which are spaced even less than nanometer apart, each one having its own unique wavelength. Okay, so this is one aspect that has had contributed much for the development of this WDM technology. So another reason, a very striking reason you can say, in the year around 1980, original optical fiber link was first time deployed commercially as a point-to-point communication, point-to-point connection. But this is able to support a single wavelength. because in order to deploy the optical fiber communication lines requires crores and crores of money, lot of money, and that too after deploying, if it is supporting a single wavelength, means it is not of much practical use in the society, even if we say publicly. So this has led to an idea of why we have to uh, multiplex more than one wavelength, transmit more than one wavelength. That had made possible with the development of this or invention of these highly coherent light sources. Once we started using highly coherent light sources as independent channels. Now each channel is supporting a single or independent wavelength. They started multiplexing them, and this has actually led to the development of wavelength division multiplexing concept. So these 2 points, guys, the limitation of 1980s technology, that is a point-to-point communication, which was supporting only single wavelength, and later that limitation has overcome by supporting multiple wavelengths with the help of highly coherent light sources. So these are the two reasons which actually led to the development of this concept or technology, WDM. So the main advantage of WDM, another advantage compared to point, you can see as it is supporting single wavelength. Suppose suppose if your WDM is supporting 10 channels, 10 light sources as a 10 different independent channels. Each channel is having its own wavelength. Assume that each channel is supporting 10 Gbps. Of course, it is having its own wavelength. Wavelength is different and transmission rate is different. Remember. Okay. Now what we have? We have 10 different channels or light sources. Each light source is emitting the light at a different wavelength. Lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, so on up to lambda 10. But each one is supporting the transmission data rate is of 10 Gbps. Means if you multiplex it, then each additional channel significantly increases the capacity. 10 into 10, 1 tera. So that much capacity has been supported by the WDM as compared to single wavelength point-to-point communication. This is another very important advantage of this WDM, increased bandwidth. Sorry, data rate, supporting data. This is very much important, and it can be deployable and in demand. Okay. So finally, how we are arriving at the definition or the conclusion of this introduction of WDM context. Many optical channels can support different transmission formats. Means what? As you have seen there, here, it is supporting multiple channels. Each channel is supporting different wavelength and with a different format of data. That's what he's telling. Many optical channels can support different transmission formats. Like for example, if channel 1 is supporting uh, European 32 channel frame format, channel 2 is supporting American channel format, frame format. Channel 3 is supporting some certain kind of audio format to transmit the audio signal. And channel 10 may be supporting to carry a text of a different kind of a format. Like that, it is supporting multiple channels with a different unique formats with the unique wavelengths. This see, it is so unique. It is not only unique in terms of the having different wavelength, it is also unique in terms of having supporting different transmission formats. It will multiplex all with increased data rate. You can see this is very important. Hence, by using separate wavelengths, differently formatted signals at any data rate, you can say at any data rate can be sent simultaneously, independently over the same fiber. Multiplexed, but they can be separated by some guard band. Guard band is the one that is going to ensure that the even after multiplexing your multiple wavelengths having different wavelengths, they cannot be overlapped. Will be separated by some distance, some wavelength. That is a guard band. So in this context, you are going to get one question: define and explain the WDM from 3 to 6 marks. Okay. Next, we can go for another aspect, that is the operational principles of the WDM. So the important feature of WDM is a discrete wavelengths. For example, just now we consider took the example of multiplexing 10 wavelengths. Discrete, these discrete wavelengths forms orthogonal set of carriers. Means orthogonal means 90-degree perpendicular geometrically, if you want to say 90-degree perpendicular to each other. And in other words, uh, little bit semi-mathematically, if you want to say mutually exclusive, or in more layman way, if you want to explain it, discrete wavelengths forms orthogonal set of carriers. Why now he is telling, putting this statement in terms of now the discrete wavelengths in terms of the carriers. Wavelength 1 is coming here, and wavelength 2 is coming. Wavelength 1 is coming from channel 1. For example, see that figure letter. Okay. Wavelength 1 is coming, 2 is coming, so on up to 10. Each one is coming from a different channel. Channel 1 give to wavelength lambda 1, channel 2 give to lambda 2. And all these are multiplexed. But before multiplexing, what each source is giving you the intensity modulated wave with some carrier. That's what he is telling. Discrete wavelengths forms orthogonal set of carriers. Carriers are required because each channel is nothing but your highly coherent light source, laser maybe. Laser's main job is to generate intensity modulated wave with its own unique carrier. See, the wavelength is different, modulating signal is different. Carrier, if you want, you can also keep it different. That's why he's telling orthogonal. Orthogonal means in some words, in one way or the other, it is also going to indicate unique intensity modulated waves having different wavelengths and text supporting formats you are going to multiplex it. That is what she is going to mean here. So it can be separated, sorry, it can be routed after multiplexing, switched by routers without interfering with each other. Then it can be separated at the receiver. So now to do these things, multiplexing, routing, switching, and separating once again at the receiver side, uh, what we need from the instrumentation point of view, how to implement this WDM, we need active and passive devices. So these devices we need because in order to circumvent with these all the functions of WDM that we want to implement it. We want to combine multiplex, we want to distribute it, we want to route it and switch it. We want to amplify it all the way from transmitter to receiver as a router or repeater, and we want to isolate it, and we have to separate it. So we need the devices here. This has also led to the different, that's why we can see optical communication has become a different domain as compared to analog or digital communication. Concepts were developed differently, devices were developed differently, technologies were developed differently. So hence it becomes a different domain here. So now we can see we need different devices here and to support all these functions for the operation of this WDM technology. As such, we have two categories of devices to support here. Passive devices we know already, devices which not require any external source. No battery, no energy as such. Externally, it is required to make it live. Hence, we don't have any control over it. No flexibility will get. We don't have any control over the operational as such. Operation of this as such of the device is concerned. Which can be used for the splitting and combining the signals operation. Sorry, functions. Active device which needs the external energy or power supply to be alive. Hence, we have the control. and flexibility over it. It's a dynamic control, but it depends on the wavelength on which we are going to operate. Uh, Sorry, and some more flexibility can be obtained. Examples include tunable optical filters, sources, and optical amplifiers. These things we'll see in detail later. So these are the two things which are actually required led to the development of a new total domain to support the WDM technology. So let us see the implementation of WDM using many types of optical amplifiers here. So as such, you can see here we have uh, one side. This one you can see this part. Will focus. So this one is a transmitter part. This one is a reception part, and later we have to come back to this. So on the transmitter side, we have the independently modulated light sources. You can see here independently. That's how we have seen there. This one, discrete wavelengths forms orthogonal set of carriers. That's what I explained. That you can include here as a part of explanation. So each transmitter is nothing but a highly coherent light source generating its own unique wavelength, lambda 1, lambda 2, or so on up to lambda n. Tunable sources are there. Each one supporting its own format, data format to be supported, and is intention modulated by its own unique carrier, we can say. Carrier is different, formatting, data formatting, what it is going to support is transmitter or channel is different, wavelength is also different. Three things are different here. So all together got a multiplexed by this wavelength division multiplex. So it is got multiplexed without any overlapping with some guard band, and it will be transmitted through the optical fiber span. Span is nothing but the distance between the post and pre amplifiers. So, so 1 minute, sorry. And at the receiver side, if you come back here, we need a demultiplexer having the receivers and filters we want here. Okay, including optical filters. Each one is tuned to respective wavelengths, having a sharp cutoff frequency or wavelengths. Because receiver one should receive only lambda 1, not lambda 2. So it should be tuned properly with this sharp cutoff wavelength, lambda 1. Similarly, receiver 2 should be tuned properly, the sharp cutoff wavelength lambda 2 so on up to lambda n. So lambda n minus 1 will not be received by this receiver, last receiver, like that. Okay. But some tolerance will be allowed, like detection channels, narrow spectral operation with the sharp cutoff wavelengths. Crosstalk will be allowed up to minus 30 decibels. That one thing will be allowed here, this part. Crosstalk means sometimes they got overlapped. You might have experienced this. If I'm talking with you, you might be listening somebody's noise voice also during communication, telecommunication, I'm telling, not this one. Okay, that is called a crosstalk. That is allowed up to minus 30 decibels. So after explaining these two points, now we'll come back to this portion here. So this portion mainly consists of amplifiers. The whole channel, optical fiber, media that is spanning from the transmitter to the receiver will consist of the repeaters and amplifiers. We got three types of amplifiers here: post amplifier, inline amplifier, and pre amplifier. Why they called so, that only you have to explain. Post amplifier, it is called because it is the first amplifier it is going to receive the output of the multiplexed equivalent multiplexed signal. It is the first amplifier. It is going to amplify it and then it will be transmitted. And it is called post because this amplifier will be kept at the output of the multiplexer. It is called pre because it will be kept at the receiver side, at the first amplifier that is going to receive the signal. So after traveling so long distance, your multiplex signal got attenuated and distorted. It will be got amplified or boosted. That we discussed it sufficiently in the previous classes. Those explanations you can include. So how it is going to amplify and take care of the attenuation. Attenuation is mainly contributed by two factors: absorption and scattering losses, which can be compensated by these preamplifier and got amplifier or boosted in power factor and will be given as input to this demultiplexer. That is the job of preamplifier. It is called pre because it will be kept at the input, at the first stage, first amplifier appearing at the input of this demultiplexer. Post because it will be appearing at the output of something. Pre because it is appearing at the input of something. That's all. That you remember the key points. Inline amplifier is nothing but the amplifiers which are existing in the we can say the stomach of repeaters here. Many repeaters you are getting here inline amplifiers throughout the length of the optical fiber. Span this it spanning around kilometers, no hundreds or thousand kilometers. We'll be having many repeaters here. Where will we be getting this inline amplifier? Its main job is to uh, two things are there. It has to uh, take care of that attenuated signal attenuation. It has to minimize, remove the losses because of the uh, absorption or dispersion, uh, scattering losses or spreading, pulse spreading. Those will be minimized, then it will be got amplified. It has to remove the distortions and it has to amplify it. Two things. That will be done by inline amplifiers kept in repeaters, in each repeater. So that's how you have to explain the a very rough, you can say, a very brief explanation for this implementation here. So we have to conclude this one with on what span we are going to the bandwidth going to operate. If you look at this one, the WDM is going to operate in three dominant spectral technologies. One is O band, over which a WDM is can be used finding applications, as it has been shown here. Attenuation versus you can see attenuation dB per kilometer is there. Span is in terms of kilometers versus wavelength. It is in terms of nanometers. So WDM first, the dominant band over which it is going to operate is in the O band from 1300 to 1550 nanometer range, with the window provided over the band window 14 terahertz, very wide. So another one, it is ITU-T. ITU means International Telecommunication Union for telephony. G.692 standard for WDM. So the standard name they have mentioned by this ITU. Its main job is to define the standards and configurations throughout the world and and allocate the wavelengths. So now it is allocating this another wavelength for this over which WDM is required to operate for specific applications over 1535 to 1562 nanometer supporting 100 gigahertz. Another one it is going to operate here to the SU band here, that is above 1500 to around 1600 supporting 15 terahertz band. Okay. So this all thing, this context, this slide is going to give you the full picture or implementation of this WDM. Okay. So till this, with the two slides, we have seen two or three slides how to define and explain the WDM and how to explain the implementation of WDM neatly with the graph and this diagram. So next one we will see the this one. Okay. This is another point I forgotten to tell. This will mean this one with the relationship between the velocity of light, the wavelength, and the band over which WDM is going to operate. Sometimes this graph will be given based on this formula. Sometimes you are getting the numericals, but hardly I have seen but it is better if you remember this formula along with either they give you the graph as a part of the numerical, or sometimes they give you the range of wavelengths with the band. For example, based on this formula only, I'm going to modify c equal to lambda v. So this one here, differentiating it with respect to for delta lambda very much less than lambda square, you will be getting this. So consider the fiber that has the attenuation characteristics as shown in the graph. This one, this graph only, this one. From the above equation, the optical band delta V equal to 14 terahertz. This one is taking O band, 14 terahertz. Maybe he has given this range of wavelength. For this range of wavelength, we'll have to remember 14 terahertz. For this kind of wavelength range, you have to remember the band will be 100 gigahertz. And for this range from 15 just below 1500 to 1600 range wavelength, it is going to support the band of over 15 terahertz. Or sometimes you may give an exam O band, so you have to make out the band will be 14 terahertz. For SU band, the band supported will be 15 terahertz. Like that for ITOT G.692, the band support will be 100 gigahertz. These are the things, guys, you need to remember. So whether he will give it in a exam or not. So these are some dimensions or specifications are required by you to remember. If he will give you the graph, no problem. But I haven't seen so far he has given the graph here. Then you can substitute the things here. You can vary this problem and you are able to calculate here delta W and delta V is given. He will ask you to one minute, sorry. Delta lambda will give, and he will ask you to find out delta V, or delta V will be given for O band. He will ask you to find out delta W. So change in band for O will be 14 terahertz, and he will ask you to calculate the spectral bandwidth. That is delta lambda. That we can get by using this formula. Okay. So next one, we'll see the WDM standards for today's recipe. So WDM is mainly FDM, extension of FDM itself, optical carrier frequencies, because you have seen in the transmitter side in the previous here, each one is intensity modulated by different carrier. That is actually FDM itself. But now, as it is coming with unique wavelength, it will be wavelength division multiple WDM. So standards are developed by ITU, International Telecommunication Union, specify channel spacing in terms of the frequency. So selecting the frequency spacing is important than constant wavelength spacing, because our objective is to lock a laser, that is each channel. The specific mode is done by this fixed frequency, cutoff frequency you can see on the receiver side. So we have similarly have to tune. That's why these are known as tunable sources. You can see these are known as tunable sources. Each one is tuned with the particular frequency, carrier frequency. So the first standard what we are getting under this WDM is G.692, defined by this ITU UT, Telecommunication Union, for the telephony. So it specifies the selecting the channels for the group of frequencies. Grid means group of frequencies which are ranging in this range of a wavelength, spacing them. So if you are getting any frequencies in this range, ITUT is recommending you to space them with this guard band 100 gigahertz. Then you can multiplex and transmit it like that. So alternative spacing for G.690 includes 50 gigahertz to 200 gigahertz with this much spectral width. There are two variations, flavors are there in the G.692 WDM standards. One is called dense wavelength division multiplexing, which is also known by ITUT G.694.1, which is going to operate over SSC along with the L band. And it is going to support manned and WAN services. It requires an error frequency spacing from 100 to 12.5 gigahertz. But its drawback is it requires highly coherent laser diodes, coherent beam generating sources. but it requires temperature controls. It requires more power consumption here. That is a limitation of DWM. Let us see how it looks here. Suppose here we got the different transmitters as already explained. So channel 1 is supporting video type of format, and will be modulated and generating lambda 1. Similarly, channel 2 is supporting audio type of format. It will be modulated by different carrier and generating unique wavelength lambda 2. Like that, text is supported by channel 3, data is supported by so on up to channel n. We are able to multiplex the wavelength from n lambda 1 to lambda n by this n channel DWDM multiplexer. Then we can see all the way they will be added and going like a single wavelength here throughout the fiber length. Optical amplifiers will be there throughout the length of this. What are the amplifiers you are getting? Post amplifier here, inline amplifiers in the repeaters, and the pre-amplifier is here at the receiver side. On the receiver side, we got uh, DWDM demultiplexer, which is going to separate these multiplexed lambda n channels, and which are recognized by these highly tuned receivers to get the separate lambda 1 to lambda n data output. So one thing you have to remember, so DWDM is advantageous because it will not require any temperature controlled laser sources. Sorry, not this is not okay. CWDM, that is what we are going to. So DWM is a limitation that it requires high power consuming, highly coherent laser sources like EBDA, Iridium doped fiber amplifier that we are going to see later. So it is used single mode fiber to carry multiple light waves of different frequencies, and over 100 gigahertz it can be used using this laser source. This all about guys DWDM flavor a version of this G.692, which is supporting G.694.1 standard DWDM. Next we'll get CWDM, which is going to support G.694.2. That 694.1 we have seen there, 694.1. Remember these standards. G.692 is the main that is going to divide it into two versions DWDM with a G.694.1 DWDM, then G.694.2 that is CWDM. It is known as a coarse WDM, wavelength division multiplexing. It's a main evolution. It has happened because of to avoid the limitation, one of the limitation, because DWDM requires temperature controlled high power consuming light source. No, that is not required here. So low cost, okay, low cost optical sources are required, and it is going to support LANs. DWDM was supported MAN and WAN. Now it is going to support LAN. So it is also useful with supporting these two standards, G.652C and 652D. You can look into those details later, which are useful for the low water content fibers, which are used to dig and lay in the submarine cables. Okay. So another standard one, what we are using, this G.694.2, that is going to define your CWDM, is which is going to support not only O and SCL bands as the DWM was supporting, now it is also going to support E band. The spacing of 20 nanometer with the wavelength drift around plus or minus 2 nanometer. Design inspection because light sources that are not temperature controlled here. Like that, so far we have seen the standards G.692 divided with respect to two flavors here with respect to DWDM with supporting G.694.1 standard. Another one CWDM, coarse DWDM, supporting G.694.2 and 652D standards. Another one, last standard, what we are getting in the context of these WDM standards is G.695. 692 we have seen, 694 we have seen with respect to DWDM, CWDM, we have seen 694 and 652 versions, and this is 695 is different, which describes the optical interface specifications for multi-channel CWDM, supporting from 40 to 80 kilometers, including both uni and bidirectional systems, simplex and duplex. Applications may cover in the range 1270 to 1610 nanometer. For example, single mode fibers recommended for 652 and 655. So 652 this one and 655 another one. Okay. So today we have seen here overview of WDM, how to define and explain the WDM. We have completed how to explain the operating principle, how to implement WDM, how to explain the WDM standards we have covered till today. Okay. In the next session, we are going to see what are the different, this is the next one session is important, that is MZ HA interferometry concept, very important concept in the model 4. Today what we discussed are all are also very important. Stop now.